Joining you is Chris Hughes, a dietitian with Your Nutrition Pro. Chris, you see clients all over the country through telehealth. Thanks for making yourself available this afternoon. How much of your caseload at the moment is linked to semaglutide treatment?
Yeah, hi, Kat. Look, it'd be fairly significant. I would say at least 50% of our caseload would be, weight loss medication related. 70 to 80% would be weight loss, and then that huge portion of that would be then the weight loss medications.
Okay. Tell me about how it works, Chris. You're a dietitian. People come to you with a prescription from their doctor for diabetes, for weight loss, and then you help them develop a diet that meets their particular needs. That's sort of how it works?
Yeah, look, a big thing with us, Kat, is that we're actually just monitoring their protein and calcium and nutrient intake. So, like, the drugs actually help them lose the weight. They suppress their appetite and they're losing weight because they're eating less food, but they're eating less food, they're eating less nutrients. And so what the evidence is showing is that we're seeing some protein, some muscle loss and some bone loss. There's other nutrient deficiencies like vitamin D and iron and things that we keep an eye on, but we're really trying to make sure that people aren't becoming malnourished on these medications.
Right, and this is important to remember because it's not just about taking the drug, it's doing all of this other stuff as well that forms a broader picture of better health outcomes, and that's what we're focusing on here, better health outcomes. So tell me, do you support the idea of the use of semaglutides for weight loss as a means of addressing obesity, chronic obesity, generally speaking, Chris?
Yeah, I'm a big advocate for it, Kat, because, the human body is designed or evolved to store fat. So weight loss isn't natural to us. So when someone loses weight, the body actually defends back against that, and it'll slow the metabolism and then increase hormones to make you hungry, which is why, a lot of people yo-yo diet. It's why they'll lose weight, they'll put it back on, lose weight, put it back on. Whereas these medications are actually addressing the physiology of weight loss. So that's why I'm such a big fan of it. But there's obviously a big caution to come with it. And most doctors are really good. Like, they'll refer to a dietitian so that they are being monitored. But you will get clients who will just go on the medications and still eat quite poorly. And so they might lose weight, but they're going to have a lot of other health complications and signs of malnourishment.
Yes. And this is interesting because cost is one of the challenges here, isn't it? The price of the drugs and then the price you might pay to see a dietitian. It can add up, Chris. Is that a barrier for people getting effective care and achieving their better health outcome?
Yeah, look, absolutely, Kat. We, like in our business, we bulk bill. So all of our referrals come through doctors, so it's through Medicare. And so they're put on a care plan and then we can bulk bill them. So from our angle, it doesn't cost them anything to see us for the most part, unless they wanted to continue seeing us after the care plan. But certainly the cost of the medications is a factor, and there's huge dropout rates. And there was some research that came out last year that showed that the dropout rates could be as high as 2/3. So there was a lot of people dropping out. Now, that was before Mounjaro, which is the more recent medication that's come out. I expected the adherence to that would be much better.
Why?
A lot of people within that first year, because they're getting better results.
Okay.
So the cost is still there, but they're seeing it. So it's what they call a dual agonist, like it's actually affecting two systems in the body, whereas the Wegovys and the Ozempic was just the one. And Mounjaro is also better at maintaining muscle mass as well. So there will still be people that would drop out of that due to cost, or they might get some nausea from it, but the nausea that people can experience also tends to be lower on that newer medication as well.
That's interesting. And we're talking here about medications that are various forms of a semaglutide compound. Each medication has a brand name attached to it, price, a sort of a marketing plan behind it. I mean, it gets into kind of big pharma, big business really quickly, but let's just keep in mind the sort of basic principle here of semaglutides as a form of medication for diabetes, but specifically weight loss. That's what we're looking at this afternoon. Chris Hughes with you, dietitian with Your Nutrition Pro. My name's Kat Feeney. You're on 612 ABC Radio Brisbane and Queensland. And Chris, as you say, you're helping people to manage their diet in addition to the taking of this medication, so they're not becoming deficient in something and therefore losing some of the possible benefits they might be gaining by spending all this money and taking all of this stuff. And Chris, as you said, sometimes it's the money that might see you drop out of the program. What happens when you go off the drugs? What happens to your weight?
For the most part, Kat, they will put it back on if nothing has changed. So what I mean by nothing has changed, so if they've lost weight by just eating less of what they were currently eating, then that food will come back in volume when they stop the medication. If they've used the medication to lose the weight, bring in some lifestyle change, they've seen a dietitian and they've really started to change some of their behaviours, then they're going to be better at maintaining that weight loss. And we have got clients that have been quite successful at reducing doses and going off it, and they've made the lifestyle changes. So in the shorter term, they've been able to maintain weight, but longer term, again, the human body is designed or evolved to store fat. So you're kind of competing against human physiology. So, the chance of weight regain is high.
This is, okay, again, going back to some of the data we were talking about, that your postcode and the amount of money that tends to be held by the people who live in that area can affect your chances of or exposure to chronic obesity. In other words, Chris, in some cases in lower socioeconomic areas, it's more likely you might face your own challenge with weight, or you might live with chronic obesity. And we're talking about weight loss drugs that are expensive. So maybe people who really need them, if that is what their doctor determines, finding that they cannot afford them or afford to stay on them. Chris, this is where it gets complex. And this is where I'm keen to understand what you see as the pathway for people who are keen to lose weight but don't want to do the drugs or can't afford the drugs. So often we'll have messages saying, "Oh, just eat less or exercise more." Is it as simple as that, Chris Hughes?
No, look, it's eat less calories. So weight loss surgery, these medications, different diets or meal replacements, they're all vehicles to deliver a calorie deficit. But that shouldn't mean less food, Kat. So that's a really important concept. Whenever I'm helping someone to lose weight, a big part of what we're trying to do is control hunger. And a lot of that comes down to the volume of food. So just to really explain that simply, an apple and a biscuit have got the same calories, but an apple is 10 times the size. So you're eating more food. So it is important to eat less calories, but the quality of the food has to be better. That means you can eat more food and lower the calories. And of course, moving more supports that as well. You're burning off more calories, maintaining lean muscle. So it is a matter of how much you're putting in, how much exercise you're doing. But look, that's at the base level. There's all of these things that actually influence why we eat. So your home environment, for example, has a huge influence, or your home and work environment have a huge influence over what you eat, because a lot of people will try and use willpower. And willpower, I'm not saying willpower doesn't have a role, but willpower is only a temporary measure. It will only work for a period of time. And if you're constantly exposed to food and you're trying to use willpower, it's actually quite fatiguing and ultimately lets people down most of the time.
Okay. So when it comes to chronic obesity, when lifestyle adjustments aren't taking you all of the way there, what other treatments are there available to you? Leaving the weight loss drugs to one side, what else is available to you? Surgery?
Surgery, yes. So surgery is still, in terms of effectiveness, it would still be getting the best results. Obviously, there's a cost with that, but there's a cost with these medications. So next in line then are the medications, and particularly the newer ones. Next in line to that, Kat, is actually meal replacement products. So we're talking about for the, in that obese category, and there is actually a differentiation between people that are obese and just overweight. So meal replacements, like your shakes kind of thing, they're the next in line. But again, they're only a short-term measure. No one's going to stay on them for the rest of their life. And then sadly, fourth in line in terms of effectiveness is diet and exercise. And that's kind of the hierarchy of evidence.
Look, it's such a big issue. It's complex and, of course, highly individualised. We've been speaking in very general terms this afternoon, and the advice is always to seek out your own individual care and treatment if you're living with a health condition that you think would benefit from a bit of support. Chris Hughes has been with you, dietitian at Your Nutrition Pro. My name's Kat Feeney. Chris, I really appreciate your time this afternoon. Thank you.
Thanks, Kat.
Chris Hughes.